So like next year when you guys get your ones, you're not gonna get detached number. They'll be from the same group. Same until you.
It's very rare that I miss. I think I got caught one class. Okay, so composition of functions. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. It sounded like you're pretty comfortable with it. We're working on. Yeah, that's all this is substitution. The two different ways to write the composition of functions. I prefer this because it tells you that it's inside of that. This, sometimes you see this. This is getting less and less used, but it's still around. But for those of you in math and science careers, you need to see it. You're going to see it in college. Okay. So what are we talking about here?
We're finding, using the g of x as the x term for the f of x value.
Right. Yeah. So that's a very good way to describe it. This is a little more elementary. G goes inside f of x. Usually you're given two functions, right? And it would say something like calculate or find g f of g of x. I just sometimes that is a disaster, but so basically what we're looking at, this is inside F. So I'm going to take this here and put it in for every x value. So this is the same as saying F of 2x minus 1 everywhere I put parentheses. This is a skill we worked on. Function analysis in 1.1. It's the same skill, you just have a little different coding here. It's a different format. So you're okay with substituting, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any classy items, so that's good. And now we simplify. So what do we have here? Two of them, right? You FOIL it, and then distribute, and then you all combine like terms. So go and work that on your own. I'll ask somebody for the answer. See if you get it.
source. Hours. First hour.
Everybody says, anybody? Volunteer.
4x squared minus 8x plus 1.
Who agrees? Who disagrees?
Yeah, it was,
I got
Yeah.
plus 5.
I got
On James.
I got plus 5. I got plus 5.
What?
Yeah.
I got
I got
plus
plus
six.
6.
I got plus 5.
That means I have to do the problem. Something to avoid that. Okay, so
Nope.
Oh.
There's plus a 1.
It is
You got that as.
Oh, okay, now I remember.
your issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be plus 6.
I forgot to negative two positive.
Boom, guys.
Air
High five to everyone. Two got it.
I gave you another air high five.
We're
We're gonna have to air slap.
Okay, one more and we'll be done. I just want to talk to you about domain and range.
You want to
So,
do this two.
Doesn't, f of g and g of f come out differently?
yes, good, thank you for saying that.
And then you should be.
If I did g of f of x, they would be different. Okay, do we need to do that one?
No.
Why would it be different? How do you explain?
Which one?
It'd be vice versa on f of g of x. So,
Really?
So number 3 is determine whether f of g is always equal to g of f. The answer is no. For two functions, explain your answer and include an example or counterexample. So, when you're trying to explain things mathematically, if you have two functions, then you can use this example. Let's say f of g of x, okay, is an operation where g is put inside f. Which is going to be different than the operation where f is put inside g, because this is linear, this is quadratic. So that would be an example, specific language for this example. Explain it to the best of your abilities. You can also use a real life example of some kind. Like, okay, here's a composition of two items, socks, then shoes, right? And one's inside the other, what if you put your shoes inside your socks?
You're gonna have a very strict shelter.
Okay. You might have troubles on the top of this. So here's another way to kind of get a real life example. Okay? Okay. Moving on. Let's say f of x is square root of x minus 4. G of x is 1 over x squared. If we're talking domain, are there values that we can't use here? So what's the domain of f?
No. Any real number?
Let's try -10.
Negative, no,
Okay.
any
Number
real
three.
positive number. Above four?
Greater than or equal to 4. So this has, the whole thing has to be bigger than 0. If you struggle with seeing that, the best way to do this one is to put an equation together, because you know this has to be bigger than 0 or equal to 0, and solve it. So if you solve this, you get x is greater than. Okay, what's the domain here?
Zero.
Greater than or equal to 1.
Okay, that's part of it. Is there any number I cannot put in the bottom of the fraction?
Negative.
Oh, no.
Zero.
0. That's the only one I can't use. Anything else will do.
So x does not equal zero.
So you could say all reals except 0 if you're writing it in English. You can write the real numbers x cannot equal 0. Okay. You can even do interval notation. Two sets. This means 0 is not included. Okay. This one would be 14. 4 is included.
X has to be greater than or equal to zero.
Here?
Yeah.
We could do x less than 0 and 4. That's right. 4. X greater than 0. So
You
options,
just write the x not equal to 0 though.
that's fine too. Yeah. There's all these. So we have, when we do a composition, we have to consider these two. If we're asked about the domain of f of g of x, these still come into play. So f of g of x is
Okay. And then we get into it, right?
right. So this is it. You don't have to do anything else for the composition.
It would be the same thing as like backwards, right? Or would we have to,
G of f of x,
or would the square,
the square and the square root would cancel, but that's about as far as you can go.
yeah,
What is the domain of this function? These still matter. So x cannot be 0 still, obviously.
X is greater than 4.
It also has to be greater or equal to 4. Okay, those still have to be true. We also have to analyze this function.
and it seems smaller than 0.05.
So that's to be true, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes it is better just to write an equation. This is a case where I would because it's got some messy stuff in there. So add 4.
We're writing this word, or writing an equation, this word gets
But, well, yeah, because you know this inside needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So you don't need to worry about the square root. Even if you did include it, it would disappear. If you saw it this way. From here,
And then x squared.
then you would have to divide.
divide by 4. Get our brain cells refreshed on algebra if they are one.
Yeah.
And somebody said the next step already. X. What's the square root of 1?
1.
1. What's the square root of 4.
Did you multiply the x?
Root A.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
This means that's the wrong direction. So this is our, we have 3 domains to consider, or 3 items to consider. This is our main one we want to look at. So we compare this to the other 2. This has to be true. Okay, so can I use this one anymore? No, it's now invalid for this function. Still works for the original, right? But for this one, we don't consider it anymore. Okay, because it's not inside this interval. Does this one still matter? It does, because 0 is in here. So I have to transfer this here and say that x cannot equal 0. We have 3 domains to consider, and now we have to combine them.
So you put the sign that it's negative?
Here, this, if you have a positive, negative that are greater than or equal to x, that's the opposite value. It means x is between the 2. Okay, so that's the caution with domain and range on these. You have to consider these again. Sometimes they don't get included, sometimes they do need back in.
So what's the title of it?
This is your domain.
So that works in.
Yeah, this is perfectly fine for domains.
That work with.
What? This is the domain for F. This is the domain for G. This here is the domain for F of G of X. You probably won't run into that very often, honestly, but if I'm teaching to you mathematically correct, we might see that a time or two the rest of the year, once or twice next year after this. You have the work. Don't work right, be able to write it down again. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes or so, scan that over, see if you have any questions, talk to your neighbor, shout at me. So, yeah. I'll say it again. If you had trouble with 1.1, those are all review problems from 1.1. Okay. So if you had trouble, hopefully you asked for help, you got it fixed, then now you can practice that skill.
Why was it for the name for FX?
Sorry?
So why did you cross out the domain of FX? Because X is greater than or equal to 12.
Because it's not inside this interval. The domain for f of g of x is -1/2 of 1/2. Right? This is outside of that, so we don't have to worry about considering it. For f of g of x. We do have to consider 0 because it's inside that interval. Yeah, this is what I gave you yesterday. You just need to do the composition stuff now. It's like number 8, number 10, there's just a few problems.
Oh, it's the bottom.
Right.
Okay.
I don't understand number 7.
So f of g of x, I'm putting this one inside that x. F of g of x, right? G goes inside of f. If I do g of f of x, this one goes inside both of these x's.